Hey, this is Anthony Effinger. I'm back at Distant Voices, and today I'm talking with Ben Landsverk. He is a member of the band Wonderly, which you know for a reason that we'll explain in a moment. And he's also the co-founder of the Low Bar Corral, which is, he's going to tell you about that too. It's a fantastic thing that's going on in Portland, and it'll raise your spirits. Ben, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you for having me on, Anthony.
So tell me what it's like to be a musician during COVID and quarantine.
Sucks. It is not fun. I am one of the lucky people who's been able to continue working during this time, and you know, as happy as I am about having the studio gigs and being able to do what I am during this time, I miss playing out. I miss the live shows. I miss the interaction with an audience. You know, being able to be in a room, being able to just kind of energetically vibe with what's going on there. I miss it more than I thought I ever would. But I am really lucky to myself to be able to keep working in some capacity.
Now tell me, how are you able to keep working?
Well, some of the work is with my band Wonderly, which is me and Jim Brunberg. We do music for podcasts and for radio and for movies, like soundtracks. And we just actually finished up a feature-length film for the director John Garcia, which was a really great project. It's called Strictly for the Birds, and it'll be out within the next year. We continue to do some work for the New York Times, which has been a lot of fun.
Wait, let's talk about that. Now sure. So that's why people they're going to know you.
Right, exactly.
Right? Because the New York Times podcast,
the Daily. Yeah, we made the we made the music for that, the theme music, and then we made a bunch of the incidental music for it as well. The Times has been just an absolutely wonderful client and collaborator. They've got such an amazing production team, and it's a pleasure. Anytime they send us anything, we just are so excited to just jump on it. And
how much was that, like a breakthrough for you? Was that your first kind of big national podcast work?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, it doesn't get much bigger than the New York Times. Before that, we had done the theme for Dear Sugars, which was the Cheryl Strayed and Steve Allman podcast, which started on WBUR but then moved to the New York Times. But yeah, when they called us and they said, Michael Barbaro we'd worked with him on another podcast called The Run Up, which was about the run up to the 2016 election. And we did that, and it was really great to work with them. And then when they called us and said, we're doing, a daily news show, and we would love for you guys to come up with something, we were very stoked about that. So
yeah, and you heard Michael Barbaro on the phone.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm Michael.
Yeah. We've spent, every time we go to New York, we spend time with him. Yeah, he's a wonderful guy. And
What's
Lisa,
he like?
What do you like? He's very down to earth. I mean, you do feel like you're being interviewed every time you talk to him, but that's just the way he is.
So that's been a big driver of work, it sounds like. Did that lead to the movie?
In some ways. I mean, everything has just kind of led one thing to another. People will hear about us. I think this last movie that we did was kind of begotten from a previous movie that we did called Last Ferry, which was an ultra low budget queer thriller. They heard about us through the Daily. They were fans of the Daily, and then they just called us on the off chance that we might be interested in scoring this film. And we'd never scored a thriller before, so we were kind of like, what's this going to be like? But then we got really into it. We started listening to a lot of Johan Johansson and Cliff Martinez, and just all these folks that we'd always idolize, and we were like, oh, there's gonna be like a jump scare here, and we got to do that, and just kind of figure it out, just on the fly. And I'm really excited about the way that it turned out, actually.
So now you're a multi-instrumentalist. You play keyboards, viola.
Mm-hmm. Keyboards, pretty much anything with strings. So cello, viola, violin, banjo, mandolin, guitars, bass, balalaika if I have to.
When you do podcast work, do you play those instruments or do you play something else?
We do. Between Jim and I, we can play with a relative level of proficiency anything, pretty much anything that's in a symphony orchestra. So, so like, I mean, I think probably aside from like French horn and bassoon, but Jim plays a bunch of woodwinds, including saxophone and clarinet, and then he also is a trumpet player. He also plays drums and bass and keyboards, and I think he recorded some cello recently. Like he's amazing.
When you played out, who do you play out with before the whole COVID thing happened?
Well, I play out with Wonderly every once in a while. I play out with Casey Anderson every once in a while. I think he recently did one of these interviews. And he's a great singer songwriter whose music I just love. I play with Rachel Taylor Brown, who hasn't played out in a while, but she's another gem that people really should know about in Portland. Incredible singer songwriter. And then I also do a bunch of stuff with the Low Bar Chorale, which was an every 2 weeks gig, and now has become an every week gig.
How's that working? Is it online now? And tell people what it is.
Yeah, okay. So the Low Bar Chorale, it's a drop-in pop chorus. During the non-COVID times, the pre-COVID, we met at Revolution Hall in one of the big rooms there. And usually about 100 people would show up. We'd have a full band. We'd spend about 2 hours singing together, and maybe 3 songs. I would teach 3-part harmony on the fly to everybody in the choir, which is also the audience. It's all kind of one thing all happening at once. We would all sing together. There's no presupposition of knowing anything about music or choral singing or anything. Which is a weird way of saying it's absolutely open to anybody, especially people who think they're tone deaf. Our last in-person gathering was March 10th, and I believe on March 12th we went into lockdown. So luckily, nobody at our gathering got sick. Nobody got COVID. But shortly after we went into lockdown, we started doing these online sing-alongs, and I kind of expected a normal number of people to show up to it, to be on it, because we'd usually get like 100 or something, but it was like thousands of people that ended up like tuning in and watching it. So we were like, oh, we should do this every week. And we take tips every time, and we have a band fund to pay for our amazing 5-piece band. And our band features, I'm just going to name them all because they're just incredible. Kylene King on the viola and vocals, Dave Jorgensen, who plays keyboards, Alan Hunter, who plays bass, Ned Failing, who plays drums, and A.G. Donaloya, who plays guitar. And these guys play, like, Kylene plays with like Brandy Carlisle, Alan plays with Eels, Dave plays with Blind Pilot. They're like touring rock stars, and I'm so lucky that I get to work with them, and that they consider this project to be as worthy as I do.
How do people find you, and when should they tune in?
7 o'clock on Tuesday nights, on the Low Bar Chorale Facebook page, not the group, but there's a page.
You miss playing out. You're getting some of that from Low Bar. How are you coping otherwise?
I'm writing a lot of music. I'm writing a ton of music. I mean, if I didn't have my creative pursuits right now, I don't know where I'd be. I feel really lucky that I have the tools and the agency, and I feel I just feel really grateful and lucky to be able to make my own stuff right now. Because if I couldn't make my own stuff, I just don't know what I'd do. But music has been like, there have been so many times that I feel like music has saved my life, and this is another one of them, and it continues to every single week with Low Bar. Every time I work with Wonderly, every time I write a song, music is just such a great way to cope spiritually with something like this. Anybody who's watching this, like, next time you get a chance to sing along with something, or to make music, or even just sit down with your guitar, like, it helps. It really, really, really helps. Even if you think you suck, like just go for it because it's cathartic. Like, I feel like when COVID is over, all these great records are going to come out, you know, because I think a lot of people are doing this right now.
That would be a great thing to have happen, to have come out of this. That would be one very good thing. And I can think of a couple others. Ben, thanks a lot for joining us. This has really been a lot of fun. And
Oh,
I hope
thank you
people
for
tune
having
in
me.
on Tuesday nights at 7 on Facebook.
Hmm.
Low Bar Corral.
There you go. You got it.
And hopefully we'll talk to you again soon.
All right. That sounds great. Thank you so much for having me on Anthony and Willamette Week. Thank you.